Well, a French court has jailed 3 men on charges of rioting in the aftermath of angry anti-Israeli demos in the suburbs of the capital. The men are between the ages of 21 and 28. They received sentences between 6 and 10 months on charges of participating in a rally in Sarcelles this past Sunday. A fourth man was given a suspended sentence, while a minor received a fine. The rally had been organized in protest of Israel's ongoing onslaught on the Gaza Strip. French media say that a fresh anti-Israeli public demonstration is also due in Paris later on Wednesday. Reports say the demonstration has been organized by the leftists and that some 30 lawmakers from the ruling Socialist Party are set to participate. Anas Safroy is our correspondent who joins us from Paris. Anas, we've had a number of these protests that have taken place, and they've led to violence. But yet the government has been logically minded about having this latest demonstration to take place. Tell us why that is, and of course tell us more about these jailing of these pro-Palestinians that have occurred.
Well, the pro-Palestinian rallies and demonstrations here in France have been quite widespread. People have turned out in big numbers, be it in bigger cities like Paris or in smaller other cities like Lyon. What has happened is the rallies and the demonstrations in Paris were initially banned. People still gathered. There was a huge amount of presence of riot police. There was lots of tear gas being thrown, and there was also rock pelting towards the police. And eventually, what the French media is reporting is that these demonstrators, some of them were arrested. According to lawyers and legal experts for these cases, some of them say that what has actually happened is that the wrong people have been taken into custody, and therefore the sentences are not really what they should be facing. They're sort of innocent people. At the same time, we're also seeing that the demonstrations in other cities in France, they have not been banned. And the demonstration which is about to take place in about half an hour from now in Paris is also not being banned. We are seeing members of the left parties taking part in these demonstrations. And let's not forget some other political parties, very minor parties, particularly on the left extreme, they decided to take part in the demonstrations, even in the ones which were banned. So it looks like political parties have been slow to gather the motion to understand the public nerve and the public temperature, and eventually they are starting to understand why the public is going for demonstrations, even when those demonstrations are banned. So it looks like this sort of support for these pro-Palestinian organizations here in France, or pro-Palestinian civilians here in France, the political parties have been sort of slow, the major political parties have been sort of slow to pick those cues up.
And quickly, do you think that these demonstrations are more widespread than compared to the previous, or compared to the past, based on how you have been exposed to watching throughout the years? You've, I'm sure, noticed the two different wars that happened, one cast-led 2008, and then the one previous to this one, which occurred in 2012.
Well, in the previous cases, the demonstrations were not banned. Those demonstrations were allowed to take place. So people those who wanted to turn up did turn up eventually. However, what happens here in France is that the moment the government tries to put a ban on something, the French try to go over it, and that sort of is a reason why many others turn up. Those who wouldn't have turned up, they sort of also turned up. And eventually what organizers of these demonstrations say, that the French do have a right to express their point of view. What the government has done, it is doing, but what the French have a right, that cannot be overtaken, that cannot be taken away from them. And it looks like the French organizers, the organizers of all kinds of demonstrations, they've always called for peaceful demonstrations and peaceful marches. What happens is that some younger generation, a minority of them, sort of get into these demonstrations and end up creating some sort of chaos. But the organizers of these demonstrations, they say that the main aim of these demonstrations is not to go against any particular religion or any particular community, but to criticize the French official position and to criticize the killings of civilians in Gaza and in Palestine.
Anas Safroy, thank you so much. That's a correspondent there talking to us from Paris.